Hello! Welcome to Book Snacks, your chance to hear the first chapter of a children's fiction book read aloud by me, Miss Amy, Youth Services Librarian at the South St. Paul Public Library. All of my Book Snacks picks are available to read or listen to using one of the free digital apps available to you with your library card. Visit www.ssplibrary.org for more information about library cards. Let's get into the book. Today's Book Snacks Picks is Chirp by Kate Messner, published by Bloomsbury Children's Books. Chapter 1, Seagulls and Sabotage. Mia hadn't realized how much she missed the mountains. The countryside rolling past her car window was greener than anything in Boston. She loved the moose crossing signs and the little villages that felt so sleepy and peaceful. June was in-between season in New England, but in another week, the roads would be humming with campers and fancy cars full of New York City people who stopped to take selfies with cows. For now, Mia loved watching the quiet landscapes drift by. Packing the moving truck the day after school ended had been a hassle, but she really was glad to be moving back to Vermont. The truth was, Mia wished they'd never moved to Boston in the first place. She wished she could erase the past 2 years, but leaving was the next best thing, and she'd have the whole summer to settle in. The 4th of July was less than a week away. Burlington's fireworks were the night before Independence Day and weren't as big as Boston's, but they'd be reflected in Lake Champlain, which made them twice as sparkly. Mia's family could go back to their old tradition, a picnic on the waterfront with sandwiches and Dad's pyrotechnic brownies with chocolate frosting and white, red, and blue sprinkles. Best of all, Graham would be there. Summer fireworks hadn't been the same without her catching fireflies in a jar and explaining bioluminescence in the insect world. You awake back there, Mia? Mostly. Mia unslouched and straightened her messy brown ponytail. She'd napped her way through half of Massachusetts and most of New Hampshire. Good, Dad said, because... He hesitated a few seconds, then blurted, I'm in Vermont and you're not. He looked at her in the rearview mirror, cracking up as they zoomed past the Welcome to Vermont sign. Good one, Dad. When Mia was little, any time the family took a road trip, she'd beg her parents to stop the car right on the border so the front seat and the back seat would be in different states. Mom explained you're not allowed to do that on highways, so instead, the crossing the border shout-out had become a Barnes family tradition. Never gets old. Mom rolled her eyes, but she laughed too. Then she passed a pile of day camp brochures to the back seat. Hey, you forgot these. I grabbed them in case you need to think more about summer plans. Mia hadn't forgotten. No thanks. She tossed the brochures back up front. Mom held one up with a gymnast on the cover. There's a new gymnastics camp. Mia shook her head. I don't want to do gymnastics. That's fine. Dad glanced at her in the rearview mirror. You can make your own decisions about summer activities. Great! At least somebody was on her side. Provided those activities include something other than watching reality TV, Mom said. Bummer. Add in some Mountain Dew and Chex Mix, and that had been exactly Mia's plan for the summer. When she got hurt and then had surgery a year ago, she couldn't do anything active for months, so she plunked herself down on the couch and watched all 6 seasons of Deal with the Sharks and American Warrior Challenge. When her arm finally healed, the doctor wrote a note saying she could go back to the gym, but by then both shows had another season out, so she kept watching. You need to choose 2 activities, Mom said, dropping the brochures in Mia's lap. One active and one educational. Something for my body and something for my brain, Mia sighed. But I think I build muscle just watching those American Warrior ladies. Have you seen them scale the warped wall? Mia loved how strong they looked, like nobody would ever dare mess with them. And Deal with the Sharks is totally educational. It looked like such a fun show to be on if you had the right invention. Once, in 3rd grade, Mia and her friend Alex had made a robot out of old toaster parts from the free pile after the neighborhood garage sale. It didn't do anything, so it wouldn't have been good deal with the sharks material, but Mia loved thinking up other ideas. Maybe that's why she opened the brochure for Launch Camp for Young Entrepreneurs. I might try this one. I could learn stuff to help Graham with her cricket farm. Sounds great, but I doubt Graham needs much help now that she's retiring, Mom said. I'm not so sure about that, Dad said. Last time we talked, she didn't sound interested in selling the place anymore. You're kidding. Mom left Mia and her brochures alone and turned to Dad. She had that offer from the man who runs the food processing plant up the street. It was perfect. Dad shrugged. She needs to think this through, Mom said. Running a cricket farm isn't light work, and with her health failing... Mia opened a flyer and started thinking about knitting camp. Anything was better than thinking about the idea that Graham wouldn't be around forever. She'd had a mild stroke in January, and even though she'd gotten out of the hospital quickly, the doctor said she had to take it easy for a while. That was the only time Mia had ever seen her grumpy. She looked frail, too. That wasn't a word Mia would ever have used to describe her grandmother before, and it had made her so sad. But for the past few months, Graham had been texting Mia how she'd been going to physical therapy. Now she didn't need a walker or cane anymore, and she'd been doing core exercises to get her balance back. Last week, Graham had texted Mia a picture of herself planking in a new green warm-up suit. Made it to 45 seconds today. Graham was still supposed to cut down on stress, though, so she was getting ready to retire. That was the plan anyway. It was part of why Mia's parents had decided to move back to Vermont to help with the transition. Here we are, Dad said, when they pulled into the industrial park. Graham's new cricket farm was squashed between the Green Mountain Moose warehouse and an enormous gym. Hey, that's one of the camps we were looking at. Mom reached back and shuffled the brochures until she found that one to wave at Mia. I told you, I don't want to do gymnastics. Mia pushed away the brochure. But it has warrior camp. Mom opened the flyer to a page with kids climbing a rock wall. You love that show. I like watching it. Mia took the brochure and dropped it back in her pile. Why couldn't there be a camp where you had snacks and watched other people climb stuff? Ready to check out Graham's new place? Dad pulled into a parking space next to the Green Mountain Cricket Farm sign, and they headed for the door. Graham had moved everything here right before her stroke. Before that, she'd been raising crickets in her basement. Graham's excited to give us the grand tour. Bet she's waiting in the lobby with cricket flour cookies for you, Mia. Dad was half right. Graham was in the lobby, but she wasn't waiting with cookies. She was standing on a chair, swinging a broom over her head and swearing up at the rafters, where two seagulls perched on a beam by the window. She looked more like one of the Avengers than an old lady who had a stroke 6 months ago. Mom, what's going on? Dad rushed over, helped her down, and took the broom. These birds pooped all over the place, and who knows how many crickets they scarfed up before we shooed them out here, and now they won't leave. Graham adjusted the green-framed reading glasses on her head, which had gotten half lost in her wild gray curls. Then she seemed to remember that her family was watching. Sorry, hi! She gave them all hugs. Mia's was extra long. Then Graham reached for her broom back. Dad held on to it. Let's just open the door. I bet the birds will find their way out. You need to relax. Relax? Graham yanked the broom out of his hand. When someone's trying to ruin my life's work? Aw, Mom, those birds aren't out to get you. This is just a little mishap. Mishap? No. Graham pointed her broom at the birds. This is sabotage. To find out how the story ends, check out Chirp. We'll be back again soon for another Book Snacks.